Hey Chase, how are you?
Good. You?
Doing good. It's been a while, but that's good because things have been going really well for us and ads are performing well. I just have a kind of a quick hypothetical question for you here. Been running our ads without really any change to the actual ads themselves, and they've racked up quite a bit of social proof, just tons of comments about people just saying how much they love the food. However, we're entering into a new campaign here where we want to consider changing up the ads to talk about this give back campaign we're doing. For every box we sell, we're donating a meal to a teacher. um, I'm just kind of on the fence about it. I'm curious if you've ever kind of ran into this where you rack up so much social proof and just engagement on your ads, and then all of a sudden you're faced with the choice to do we switch them over to kind of go in a different direction, and kind of how to maybe make that decision, and I guess dip your toes into highlighting a different aspect of the service that's not currently being done through your existing ads.
Yeah. So are you going away from the route that you're currently on right now?
No, so the current ads are still relevant. We're just kind of wanting to
Okay.
work something in that highlights this campaign that is really kind of social.
Yeah, just launch in its own campaign. Typically, when we see social campaigns go live alongside like your main conversion campaigns, like they do really successful. If anything, your conversions will go up because like when you're supporting a good cause, it drives a lot of new potential customers to the site, and that'll naturally increase your conversion count as well.
So would you create new audiences for that specific campaign, or are you looking at doing kind of audience overlap, targeting the same ones that are already working with the new ad?
It would be its own separate campaign. And
Targeting.
the audience would be if you're going after the same location, then yeah, it'd be the same location.
Got it. So just being kind of comfortable with having your ad spend kind of compete with itself. Um,
Yeah, because like, are you doing it for, I mean, is it going to be the same conversion type?
yeah.
Oh, it is. Okay, then yeah, you just have to be comfortable with it doing that and seeing, I wouldn't expect it to have a significant, impact on your scoring for competing with yourself, but you can always check using the expect tool to confirm.
Right. I mean, or do we just run, because we run conversion campaigns, do we just run a traffic campaign? Have you ever had experience running a traffic campaign, even if ultimately we are still looking for purchases, but specifically for this kind of social side of what we're launching?
No, I wouldn't do that. I just if they are going to be purchasing and that's the conversion event you want, you should definitely go for that. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
I wasn't sure if they were like signing up through like a lead form or something, or where they like submit their information to then, get into the cause.
No, it's all still the same thing. It's just we were running ads before. We did the exact same kind of campaign where we were donating meals to nurses, and in the ads itself, it would say something about that in the actual ad text of, for every box we sell, we're donating a meal. And so we found that very powerful. So that's where kind of this question has come in.
You know what?
Ads.
Okay, that totally changes things. All right. If it's all going to be for the same objective, put the ads together. Like even though you have a campaign that's running successfully, like launch them in there anyways. Because then you don't have to worry about overlap and they're both trying to accomplish the same thing.
Got it. And then, so I guess the big negative there, or the one downside, would be we're going to probably reset and get ourselves out of learning phase on the ad sets that are currently active.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so maybe if that was the case, I mean, we have like three ad sets that we're really scaling up that are active, and the rest are still in learning phase. Do you think maybe leave those ad sets alone and then put the new ads in all the ones that are in learning phase, since they're stuck there anyways?
Okay,
Okay.
so pull up a specific audience. Yeah, I mean, like the return on ad spend looks good here.
Yeah, return on ad spend is great. Let's see, like creative testing. So, I mean, yeah, the frequency is getting up on these, like we're at a frequency of 8.14 here.
Okay.
And yeah, as
These
far
are
as
all
audience,
learning limited mostly.
everything's learning limited except for, I think there's 3 ad sets. This salad one, there's a control audience. I believe there's one other one.
Okay, then I wouldn't worry about launching the ads into these.
Do you think leave this one alone since, I mean, this one is like a 9.14. It's doing extremely well. So try and maybe not put the ads into this one and then just put them all into all these other ad sets that are still learning. I think, yeah, if I take a look at all of our ad sets, most of them are still learning limited. Okay, there's 4 that are active.
So there's really a few options here. One is you could stack all of those audiences into one single ad set and then launch your best ad that you have now with those new ads that you want to have. And that could be the route. Or you could place them in the pre-existing ones with your high return on ad spend.
Okay. Okay. Yep. That's interesting. Or just add in and sprinkle in these new ads that are kind of social specific into these ad sets that are learning limited.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
so,
rank it by return on ad spend, like your ROAS. Rank your ad sets by your return on ad spend. Okay.
this doesn't look like it's, oh, there's a few that are off here. Hang on.
Got it. Yeah, it looks like that ad set that has exited learning for the salad is at a 9. And then everything else is kind of below that. You have any others that have exited learning?
Yeah, this control, and then this
Mhm.
one, it's like it's exited, but it's small. Like this is just a purchase retarget. So we don't even spend a lot on that. This control one will probably scale up a little bit more. We're just kind of working on retention before we do that.
Got it. Hit inspect on a few of these. I imagine your overlap has to be pretty high since it's city specific.
Here, I'll inspect salad. Auction overlap. Yeah, so it gets up to 15%.
And surprisingly enough, you've only reached 3% of this entire audience. That's so interesting. You have an 8 frequency score, but you've only reached 3% of people. Wow.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
For the audience reached?
Yeah, I don't, why would that be? Like, so Facebook is just continually serving the ads to a very small percentage of the same audience.
Yeah, it
Interesting.
is.
Um, yeah,
And that's either because that's either calculating it without the city, which could make sense because then it might actually mean you're only reaching 3%, which I get.
right.
But if
Yeah.
it's calculating it with the city, then like that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, without the city would make sense to me. But I'm just, I mean, despite the frequency being so high, I'm just letting this continue to run just because, I mean, the return on ad
Yeah,
spend is there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, are
So,
these any
you know,
others that,
honestly, I don't really see an issue with launching them into a lot of these learning limiteds. You could test it with a few, and if it works, continue to spread it.
yeah, but the issue is just kind of the social proof, I guess. So that's kind of the trade-off, right? Is you're getting rid of social proof on those ads.
getting rid? Or you wouldn't
Yeah,
be
'cause
editing an ad, would you?
we can't really, as far as I can tell. So I did kind of what you taught, where I created all the ads once and then copied the post ID into them. From what I can tell, you can't really just edit it and add in, a new piece of text, and it won't really affect and change all the ads. You kind of have to create a brand new ad, right? So we'd lose all that social proof.
Yeah. So I would create a brand new ad though. I wouldn't edit the existing one.
Like, don't kill these ads, just work in some new ones with that kind of angle.
Right. Exactly.
Got it. Okay. Um, yeah, thanks. The other quick question here was, we didn't make a vertical ad format for all of our ads. So obviously when they show up on stories, they're just the box with the like text underneath it. We did get some made, and I'm just kind of on the fence about working them in.
Don't do it.
Really? So
Yep.
you've had no luck with doing vertical specific ad formats for your placements?
Well, you have a lot of social proof on your ads, and that's the driving factor for your results, right? So with the vertical, you're not going to get any social proof. The ad won't accumulate any social proof. There'll be no engagement.
Not
You can't get
necessarily when
anything when
that,
you do vertical. With the
but right
if
now,
you do vertical placements, it turns it dynamic, and then it doesn't even stack social proof.
but you don't see social proof on story ads either way.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that if you're doing it, if it's going to be its own ad and it's going to be shown on the feed and stuff still as a vertical, it won't stack to social proof.
Right, but couldn't you just do the placement specifically for stories alone, and then the feed would still be the regular post with the social proof?
How do you mean? Like a separate audience?
No, like if I was to go into here and then into this specific ad and then edit just the placement for this ad to have
It would
for story.
reset your social proof on all of your placements, and you would never, anybody who likes it, it would never show up ever for any placement.
Really? So it resets it, even if you just change it for the story placement, it resets social proof on feeds.
Yep, and even if you were to launch it as a standalone ad, it still wouldn't work. You still would never get social proof.
Huh. So just never use that. Hey, it's always just the one. It's just too bad because it looked kind of bad on the brand when it's just not fit for stories, but that's good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the trade-off. So
Like, I mean, this just looks like garbage to me. But yeah, anyways, hey, it is what it is. Okay, I think those are my questions. Cool. Thanks a lot for the help, Chase, and yeah, for the teachings here. This is working really well for us. We're purring along, and yeah, we're just kind of focused on customer retention on our side now before we really scale things up to hopefully spending 3 or 4 times what we're spending a month right now.
yeah, that's amazing. Awesome. Congrats on all the results. Keep it up.
Okay, thanks. All the best. Take
All
care.
right. Thanks, Derek. Bye. Dominic, you've been unmuted.
Hey, Chase. Thanks, man. I have 4 questions, but they should be pretty quick answers. I'll go through them quickly for you. The first one is, do you permanently leave on the rules for like rule automation, the scaling rules, if an ad keeps seeming to decline every time it gets to a certain number? Like if it keeps hitting 150 and then declining, do you leave the rules on at that point, or do you just turn the rules off and settle up saying, okay, 150 is as good as it's going to get, or do you keep letting it try to keep increasing it?
No, I let it stop. I
Okay,
just
so
turn off the rule
turn 'em
for that
off.
one. Yeah, I just let it stop at the specific number that it works at.
Cool, sounds good. And if you just keep seeing it fluctuate around that number, that's when you know to turn it off?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, cool. So my second question is for retargeting. when it comes to retargeting a custom audience, say like an add to cart, should I exclude everything that's in the funnel after that, like initiate checkout and add to payment, so that those people aren't getting hit by multiple retargeting ads of mine?
Yeah, so exclude any purchases.
For
And
sure.
then for the retargeting, it's fine for people to see it multiple times.
Really? So if they're seeing it in a add to cart campaign, also in a checkout campaign, also in an add payment info campaign, that's fine for them to see that multiple times like that?
If that's going to happen, then I mean, honestly, you could just stack them up.
Interesting thought. Okay, so if I'm just doing, do you ever just do only the visitors, or do you always try to break them down by the multiple audiences?
If you have a lot of individuals and you want to split it out, it makes sense to do so. If you want to stack them all up, that works as well, because if they're going to always see the same ads, then that's fine. But if you have specific messaging for each stage, then you could certainly leave it split, and that's where the exception is.
Gotcha. It's not because each one will perform at different conversion rates?
They will if you have specific messaging.
Interesting.
So like
okay.
if you had for the add to carts, you were like, hey, we saw you added to cart, please check out now. And then like, you know, add to cart 14 days, it's like, hey, we saw you added to cart, we want to help you finish checking out with 10% off. And then at 21 day, it's like, hey, we saw you added to cart but didn't complete your purchase, here's 20% off. And you just like, it's a new offer each time until you finally get them to convert at one stage.
So in that situation, would you exclude all the other audiences other than the people that added to cart, so it only goes to them?
Yeah, you can do that. So that way you leave it split out. But if you don't have enough people in each stage of it, then you're better off just stacking it all together.
Okay, so you'd put website visitors and then everything past that other than purchases all in one audience, huh?
That's right.
Okay. Audience. Okay, cool. Another one, it's still retargeting oriented. When retargeting a custom audience in a time frame, like 180-day website visitors, 60-day website visitors, and 30 days, should I exclude each of those from each other? Say, so like the 180-day visitors aren't seeing all three campaigns.
Say that again, please.
Totally. So like, say if I'm doing 3 different retargeting campaigns, one for 180-day website visitors, one for 60-day website visitors, and one for 30-day website visitors, should I exclude them from each other? Say like, so that 180-day campaign isn't being seen by all 3 of those campaigns, because technically all 3 people would fall into the 180-day campaign. So I'm trying to figure out if I should just let them see it 3 times, or if I should exclude, like basically make one that's only 30 days, one that's 30 to 60 days, and one that's 60 to 180 days.
Yeah, so exclude them if once again the audience sizes are large enough. If they're not, then stack them.
Okay. And what would you judge large enough by when it comes to these?
So if you have like 500 add to carts in the last 14 days, that's fine. If you have like 200 add to carts in the last 3 days, that's fine. Stuff like that. Like you don't really need thousands per each, because like it's retargeting. So like, you know, 500 is a lot already just for an add to cart.
Okay.
And then as it grows over time and you get thousands per each, that's, you know, you just raise your spend on them.
Totally. Cool. And for those, use that same rule of where it's the $10 per 10,000 for the audience size, like $10 spend per 10,000 people in the audience.
Yeah, per the 10,000 audience size. Yep.
Cool.
That'll
Sweet.
get it done.
Perfect. And then my 4th one is, okay, so I ran 100+ lookalikes, and I haven't cut them yet, but I will be in the next couple days. So out of 100 lookalikes that I tested, so basically I'm trying to figure out which ones I should keep. So I'd say out of these 3 options, I'm curious which you should keep. So if I cut them one day, it brings them down to 18 winning ad sets, averaging $15 profit, and that's basically at 3.86 ROAS. The
Nice.
next one, the next one is if I bring up the per purchase price a little bit, it goes to 40 ad sets that are winning ad sets, averaging $10 per profit at 2.69. Or I can have 72 ad sets averaging 2x. But 32 of those ad sets are losing me money, even though it's still averaging 2x as a whole between those 72 ad sets. So that's what I'm trying to figure out is where, like, I mean, where do you trim the fat, basically, of how strict should you be? Should it be just my top 10%, or should I keep 70% that are all still profiting me? And yeah, that's it. That's my whole question.
Do you have those pulled up?
Totally, yeah.
Here, yeah, let's see. So that is a good question because there are some variables that go into that. The obvious choice would seem to, only do the ones that are the highest return, but at the same time, they might be the only ones that have no spend.
For sure. And given, okay, so one other question, and then we'll come back to this because it's tied in the same thing. So in my lookalikes, remember how, I don't know if you remember, but from the last meeting, I told you that I accidentally started them all without expansion on, and then I watched your videos or your course, and then realized I should turn them on. So essentially I had them running for 48 hours without expansion, all 100 lookalikes, and then I added them on, and I would say about half of them became 4 to 10 times better, and the other half totally tanked once I added on expansion. So after running them for 2 days with expansion, I put them back into learning again for the ones that tanked instead of turning them off, and turned off the expansion one more time. And some of those actually came back and are delivering at like $4 a purchase now, $2 a purchase. So my question is, how detrimental is it? So basically I ran everything for 48 hours without expansion, then 48 hours with, and then decided from there which they performed the best. But I put some of them into learning either 2 or 3 times. How detrimental is it to the campaign to put something into learning, or is it basically the same as starting a campaign or starting a campaign over essentially?
It's very detrimental, but you're a wizard, so I think that you understand it pretty well with the data. And since you're fortunate enough to get how most of this stuff works, you can pretty much read between the lines and know whether or not it'll be successful. So I think you're the exception for being able to choose whether or not you want to do that. But typically I'd advise against from resetting things and learning. But if you know how to read the numbers, you know the data, and you know that if you looked at it both ways and with the detailed targeting it was working, and then some without, and it was very obvious, like black and white, and you can see that in the numbers, then I wouldn't be too worried about changing it mid-go. But it's not always the right choice, but especially if you do know the data, then it's actually not too bad to make those decisions.
Okay, so I guess my question is, if I say I ran it for 20 or 48 hours without expansion, and then I added it on and put it back into learning and ran it for another 48 hours with, would those next 2 48 hours, do you think they would be the same as if I just duplicated the same exact ad set and started it from scratch with expansion?
Yeah, I mean, duplicating it's the better option always, because then you can freeze the results in time to see which did perform better. But you obviously have to turn off the other one.
For sure, yeah, so they're not overlapping. Okay, so technically, then it's not the end of the world as long as I'm monitoring the exact days of when I switch from one thing to the next and keeping a record of everything. Then is kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, you always want to keep records.
Okay, so it's not like it would underperform by putting it back into learning. It just makes it easier to organize the other way.
There's always a hazard for putting things back into learning, but if you're always in learning and putting things into learning, then it's kind of like there's not really a problem because you haven't exited anyways. The case where it does become a huge issue is when you've exited and it is already like out of learning. Then I would it's a definite no. You don't want to ever edit it.
Okay, yeah, I think everything was always in learning when I did that. There may have been a couple of learning limited, but I don't know if that falls under the same thing or not.
Yeah. So your original question was though, which ones did you want to change? Like which ones did you want to keep?
Totally. Yep. So I can click on whatever you want me to do to look at that to make that decision.
Yeah. Do you want to pull those 3 different scenarios up?
For sure. Yeah. So these are just the last couple days, given I'm literally still testing everything out for about another 7 days before logging things in. But say if I just filtered it by the ad metrics, cost per result. So I think just keeping everything that is making sales. I'll just do the last 7 days. So everything that is making sales brings it down to almost 2x. And that is so, I don't know why it's 33. You do the last few days. Oh, it's because I just had that selected. Yeah, it should be 72, but okay, for some reason it's 62. But either way, so this is just everything that is making sales in general. So basically anything under $25 per purchase is profitable for me. So this is profiting about $10 per product, and I'm selling for like 35 bucks. So it's not too bad. So basically I would have, in this scenario,
really
I'd have 62 ad sets, and I was only shooting for $15. Crazy thing is, before your course, dude, I've spent like 3 or 4 months and like probably $30,000 and only hit consistently $30 per purchase. And so thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Awesome.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out, should I keep 62 ad sets where some of these are still losing me money, like some are above $25. Yeah, some are even 35 and stuff like that. The other way that I can do it is so anything that's less than $25 per result. So basically only things that are profiting, which is crazy because it still brings it down to, $12 a purchase.
Right.
And that has 39 ad sets. And that means that everything in here is profitable. Nothing is I'm not losing profit on any sales. And that's still averaging way lower than I was shooting for. So that's the 39. And then say if I did under like 15 bucks, and it brings it up to almost 4x. And then this is 38 ad sets. I mean, I think it gets close to 5x, but then it comes down to like 12 ad sets at that point. And I'm just not sure how many I should let go of. That's 5.32, and that's still 20 ad sets. So I'm trying to figure out should I do anything that's profiting and keep it at like 60 to 70 ad sets and start scaling all of them, or should I just bring it down and keep it at like 3x, or should I bring it down or bring it to 5x but only have like 37 campaigns? It's a good problem to have.
I mean, I think every scenario here is actually not a bad scenario. I guess the best option here, you could do the math on all of this and see, because if you do this scenario here and like you're getting the 5x and you're getting way less purchases, you're spending and your spend goes up, you could end up decreasing your like ROAS in this scenario. I think if you only keep the profitable campaigns, that makes the most sense.
That's what I was thinking too, even if it's only $1, right?
I wouldn't try to go for the $7 cost per purchase, even though you have it here and it's like clear as day. Like, it's here, it's obtainable for sure. You've already done it, but I wouldn't want to shave off that many other purchases, because if they're all profitable, technically you'd still be making more money with the other one because you
even if I'm spending more. All right, so if my profit point is $25, anything under 25 bucks, right? Just so I'm at least, and it's still 3.41.
Yeah, and have you figured out your break-even ROAS?
I think it's like 1.25. It's somewhere in that ballpark.
Do the ROAS as a 1.25 then.
Oh, you're saying, okay. Well, that would be anything that purchased.
Change that. You'd have to change that.
Heck. Isn't the cost per ad result at above? Oh, whoops. Sorry, my bad. Greater than 0.01. Well, that's literally anything that purchased, and it's still at 2.7. That just in the last couple days, but I'll look at the last 7 days. And again, this is testing, so some of these bombed, and some of them didn't deliver anything and just wasted.
Of course, yeah. So it's all heading in the right direction.
Yeah. So if I filtered out, I'm curious. I didn't even think about that. The ads that are active. Shouldn't both of these work? Maybe it's calculating it.
Yeah, I will.
Oh, wow. I forgot to add that on there. So that's literally
You know,
every,
honestly, I think that you've executed this so flawlessly, that this honestly might just run on its own. I don't know if you were here when we were going over the last person's call, or
I
like
was,
a few
I
minutes
was,
ago.
but I was kind of preparing my questions too. So
Yeah, I don't know if you heard or saw his account, but like kind of the same scenario you're in, except he doesn't really touch his stuff anymore. Like it's kind of just
is
goes.
it on automation? Does he have the rules where it's increasing it?
I don't know if he said anything about his roles because I haven't. We didn't talk about that. He didn't have a question about it. I don't know if he had those set up or not. All I know is that he went through this exact same process, except now that his results kind of just move on their own and they're naturally just getting really good results. Like he just said when he got on the call initially, like he hadn't been on in a while because his stuff has just been running forever and it's just been getting better and better and better on its own. Like he's just not doing anything about it because this structure is meant to, be self-sufficient. Um, so I think right now, like what you could do is like just let this thing keep running and honestly just only turn off the ones that are unprofitable and literally like that's the game. And then just increasing your budget on like, for instance, this top one here at the very top,
Like
you don't even have
this?
to increase budget on that one, because like that one has such good cost per purchase. Like you could very subtly increase your budget, like just like $2 on these, like very subtly.
I was
And
gonna
that's gonna
do
be
what you said as far as, so once I figured out that they were all winning ones, I was gonna let them basically run for 7 days, then double the budget, and then wait another 7 days, and then do that. I was gonna do that. You said 20% every 2 days, but then I saw in your video it's 15% a day. Should I just do the 15% a day and set up the automation rules up?
once again, there's so many different ways you can go, and that's the modeled version. And if you've been following that so far, it's obviously working here.
Mm-hmm.
20% is to prevent it from resetting. You can't go higher than 20.
Yeah, I was just gonna do 15. I'd rather be safe.
15% is, yeah, 15% is the safe route, 20 is the
That's
higher.
every day though, right? 15% a day I can do?
No, you wouldn't do that a day. You got to give it time.
Aren't the automation rules though? Aren't those daily?
The automation rules should be set to at least a look back period of like 3 days.
But doesn't it increase it daily? I thought that it takes the action daily of increasing it.
Yeah, you'd have to look at the frequency where it's set, but it's using a look back, so it can increase daily, but the look back has to meet the actual like calculated number that you hit.
So should I do 10% just to be safe if I'm going to have it set up for daily?
Yeah, but you got to be careful because that's going to compound really quick as well. So yeah, you're going to have to watch it and have a rule to turn. You're going to have a rule to go back as soon as it's not.
Totally. That's what I was going to have. I was going to set it up exactly like I just finished the course today. I was going to set it up exactly like that to where it increases or decreases by that same amount. But I only saw the option for daily. I didn't see like every 2 days or anything like that. And I was going to do the 48-hour window, but I figured that if it was continuing to increase, they would probably keep increasing it every day because a lot of these are, or a lot of my better ones like this are over that 3x. Say if I put it on 2.5 or 3x to keep increasing it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
Do
I
you
know.
think
I mean, this looks
10
good.
then
So
for daily then? Maybe keep it at 10 or 5 to be safe? Whatever you think.
any of these numbers are fine. I mean, I wouldn't like really worry about it as long as it's under 20. Like that's just the main thing. So like 15, it just depends how fast you want to scale. Keep in mind if it's going daily, the thing's going to take off like a rocket in terms of
I'm
spin.
I'm I'm good with that.
You'll be jumping so quickly. So yeah,
I
especially
want
with
to hit
this
that.
many
I want to hit that couple
ad
$1,000 mark.
sets.
There's like 2 million in each of these lookalikes. So I'd love to hit that couple $1,000 mark and 10 of these and them all be amazing. I'm trying to scale this as quickly as possible, but I just don't want to put
You
it back
know,
into learning and screw myself. So that's why I was
yeah,
wanting
here's
advice
what
on
you
that.
like. Once you start scaling these up, eventually this is going to become a detriment to your account because you need to stack all these eventually. You can't be having this many split out and all your budget's increasing. You'll eventually max out your audiences. Like you'll be on like you'll be pumping up a ton of sales and then it'll just like you would have exhausted it all. So you gotta stack it so that way it maintains consistently over a longer period of time when you're scaling. Because
So
let's
when
say
should
you set up the rules, you're gonna hit your caps really early with the 2 million audience size on all these, because these are all pretty much 1%. Even the 2 to 3s are 1%, because it's gonna be like a 2 million audience, 1 to 2 million on all these.
So when should I combine them?
After you, so you're gonna have to look at your inspect and see how fast your impression ratios are decreasing, or your audience reach sizes. Go ahead and hit inspect on one of these real quick, and I'll show you. You need to see what your audience ratio reached is.
Where do I look at
Go
that?
down a little bit. Yeah. Well, this one hasn't been running very long, so you
No,
see the
so
audience reach
like a
ratio
day.
has a dash. It's empty right there. It's right underneath reach.
Let me see if I could
Yeah,
find one
there it
that's
is.
running a little longer. I only have like 2 interests running. The rest are all like 100 plus lookalikes.
Yeah, these are all so fresh. I don't think you're ever gonna have that audience reach ratio won't show up for a little bit. So you're
Just
fine to scale. You're fine to scale. I would say that you need to stack whenever like your reach is so slow on all of these. Whenever you're like in the tens of thousands on your reach, like 80, 100,000 on each audience, like closer to 100K range on reach, then it's like time to start looking at consolidating, because then you had at least made like a 1 to 2% reach progress. So all of them will eventually start to add up.
so should I wait till I see numbers start decreasing and then put them all in one ad set?
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect timing.
Okay,
Right
so
on the verge of where like you start to have the drop off, then you just put them all together and then take it off.
okay, so as far as that daily increase, what's your final answer as far as what I should set it at?
Start with 10, and then you can go up from there if it's working.
Okay. I'm good with honestly keeping it at that. I think it'll increase really quickly with 70 or even 50 ad sets increasing every day at a time.
Yeah, it's going to increase.
So my question is this, I mean, the other part of it. So should I get rid of, instead of, this is everything that's profiting, but this is losing me like $20 a sale or $15 a sale. Should I just do the things that are under $25 per purchase so I'm not losing on any? It's still averaging to a great ROAS, but I mean, I'm losing technically on
No,
all of these.
you only apply the rule to profitable. It has to meet profitable standards.
Okay, so this should be less
Because
than,
if you don't only do the profitable, then, because think about it this way, eventually all of them will continue to scale until it hits a point of where all of them are unprofitable. You need the rule to stop within a profitable range, not even at 25. Your profitability rule needs to scale with like margin.
okay, so
Good margin.
so it's 38 ad sets at 25. That's breaking even. Let me see how many. Actually, none of these are even hitting 25. So these are all under 22. So should I just do 22 to be safe?
Yeah, because you got to keep in mind, they're going to keep scaling until they eventually stop. And so they're going to scale all the way up and eventually stop, leaving you with only a $3 profit on each of them. But you're going to be spending who knows how much at that point. Like, you might be at 4,000 daily if it's sustainable. Like, we just don't know. You could be spending 300K per month, 500K per month, or only get to like 60K per month before you cap out.
For sure. Man, it's so difficult because I don't want to sell 1,000 of these a day for $3. Like, you know what I mean? I'd rather sell 500 of them for, at a way better rate.
There you go. So you got to figure that out with your rules.
As
So if
far
you
as
need, if you want if you like the $10 profit, then scale only based off that, because it's going to stop at that number. The rule is going to start pushing back once you've capped out. And if you're fine with capping out at the 10 profit per sale, then you'll pretty much know early on which audiences are all working and which aren't. And you're not going to have to worry too much about them being unprofitable, because it just really won't happen.
So do you feel like this is narrowing it down too quickly from 100 ad sets down to 18? Because if I do that $10 profit, that narrows it down to anything under $15. So that's only 18 ad sets that I have that would be winning at that point.
So if you narrow it down by that significant, you don't turn them off. You just don't scale them if they're not.
Got
Make
it.
sense? So you still have them running. They're still profitable, but you're not scaling them after that. The rule kicks. So there's going to be a gap. It's going to scale based off 15 and under. And then as soon as it passes 15, it's not going back and spend. It's not scaling back. All it's doing is leaving that gap. It's like Graceland until 25. Then at 25, it's going to scale back. See what I'm saying? So there's going to be a $10 window where, like, you know, it might just sit there.
Got it. So anything in between 15 to 25, let it still sit there, but don't
Don't do
scale it.
anything to it. Don't scale it back. Don't scale it forward.
Gotcha. Unless it drops down to where it's under 15 bucks, then maybe start scaling it at that point.
Yeah, exactly. That way, it's not constantly going back and forth, like scaling up, scaling down, scaling up, because you'll never have. It'll be so turbulent. You would never have any stability. That's why you need the gap.
Got it. So is the easiest way to do that looking at everything that's under $15, highlighting them, applying the 2 rules, and then not touching it on anything else?
Yeah, and then you're gonna have the decrease rule at the 25 plus. And then you're gonna have to have a turn off rule a little bit higher than that.
Oh, gotcha. So I would apply the turn off rule at anything, like I say at 27 or something like that, to everything in the campaign.
And 27 is too close to 25. There's a very given chance you could be in 27 one day and then be at $5 the next.
So should I do like 35 or something like that, just because it does drop some days?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see some spike to 45, and then the next day they're like it's $7 again.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and how would I find the ones that is there any way to view the ones you have automation on and that you don't?
No, you just apply the rule to all active ad sets. You just make sure that the rules are broad enough at the same time so it's not so, you know, spin crazy.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I'll have to kind of chart that one out a little bit, but I really appreciate the help. That answered all my questions for today, and I just really appreciate your course, man. I feel like this is already changing my life, man, in a really positive way. So I appreciate you.
That's awesome, Dominic. Congrats on the results. Really amazing stuff here. I really like it.
Awesome. Thanks, Chase. Talk to you, man.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, great. How are you doing? You're in Texas, right?
Yes.
Oh gosh. Hope everything's okay with you there, man.
Yeah, you hearing stuff on the news or what?
Well, I'm in South Carolina, so every time there's a hurricane, they tell the rest of the world that we won't be here anymore. And
oh yeah.
I mean, there are hurricanes, so sometimes there's still scary stuff, but usually, hopefully, it ends up being a lot worse in the news than what it is on the land.
Yeah, we're pretty far up here in Texas, so usually the hurricanes don't really reach us. We'll get like the showers from it, but nothing too serious.
You'll get the people who are evacuating to
Yeah.
see you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You get the visitors.
All right. So, we did a lot of stacking and whatnot to try to, condense our audiences a week or so ago, and we had some, it seemed to get rid of some of those ad sets that were not performing as well and kind of condense it, but it hasn't really. It's been going down in scale, like it won't spend less and less of the budget daily. And I've also increased the bid amounts to try to get it to, to scale more, to show the ad more. But that's had a limited success. And if I just totally turn those, duplicate that and just turn those audiences onto CBO, it just goes wacky with the cost per conversion. So I'm not really sure what to do here.
Okay. You mind if you share screen?
Yeah. And if you want, I will hand you over the controls too.
All right. Let me request those real quick. Let me know if that works.
Yep.
Cool. So you have one campaign here. Oh, and this is the men's, and is this the women's?
That's the women's, yeah.
And you've raised your bid cap on these?
Yeah.
Or these remain the same, or this one you raised it on?
The women's is always higher because the CPM is higher on the women's. Do you want me to get I guess it's not on the screen for you. Hold on one second. So I'm just going to move the mouse just to get this webinar thing off the screen so I can see better. Okay, go ahead. Just one other off the cuff question. I saw you getting a thing. Maybe it's insights or inspect on.
Yes.
Do I not have that on mine, or is there something?
You do not. You do not have an inspect tool.
Why don't I have that?
Yeah, that's a good
Facebook
question.
doesn't
It could
like
be
me.
that maybe, who knows? But specifically, you might not have it because of a few reasons. They don't fully disclose why you might not receive the inspect tool, but usually it's if a campaign has been running for longer than 7 days. That's the first one. The second one would be that if you have a dynamic ad, it won't show. Another one could be where you're located. The fourth one could be the audience size is too small, so they don't want to give you the inspect because they don't want you to be able to, see the granular details about an audience because it's too small. Those are really the main ones. Outside of that, it could be that we have a big cap and they don't actually show anything for that because the inspect tool might not be as relevant because you wouldn't really be worrying about the auction competition because you're kind of getting what you're asking for with your big cap to begin with. So that's the thing. Now, right now, you are maintaining under these numbers for what your big caps are. So it is doing what you've set it to do. So that's one of the things, right? So if you want to get a higher return on ad spend, you might either A, have to tighten this up, and then you're going to, experience a decrease in purchases, right? If that's the case, then go ahead. You were about to say something?
Well, that's kind of where we were at last week, and it was actually the ROAS was a little bit higher, but it kind of kept going down a little bit every day, and I kind of wondered if part of that was it would what would end up happening is it would start at overnight when it would start at midnight, and it would be bidding, and it would be like $15 per conversion or $18 per conversion by 6 a.m. But then as some of the sales would come in, because it's on a 7-day click window, some of the sales would come in from the abandoned carts and stuff like that. And so because it would it's intermittently turning the ad delivery off because it's not hitting its target for the bids. And then when it kind of comes down because some of the other ways that those sales and those conversions are happening, then it starts showing the ad again, and then it gets some sales, and then it might slow it down. And it's just kind of it's like a driver that just hits the brakes every 15 minutes. I don't know, man. I don't know if that's what it seems like to me is happening now.
Okay, that makes sense. Essentially, right now, since your ads are, since your ad account knows that it can get purchases at this cost, have you ever tested no audience at all other than just choosing men and then having an audience with no targeting at all and just choosing women?
So if you look at that men's control group with excludes, I put that there and I just made it open, but then I didn't want to compete against myself. So I took out my lookalike audiences. I excluded my lookalike audiences and then used just, no
had very
other
low spin on
parameters
it.
except that.
Yeah, what you could do is duplicate this, keep the same big caps and everything, and just totally remove all the audiences and just leave it wide open.
Okay, and don't do any exclude audiences, or put the excludes on like my two big audiences, like the engagement 1 to 10 and the purchase 1 to 10. Should I exclude those or just leave those in there as well? I mean, I guess that's only audience size of what, 23 million or something like that, or 30 million.
You could do that, or you could just actually leave it wide open, and if it's performing better, eventually just turn these two off.
Yeah. Okay. And then just set that and just duplicate it and then set it at bid cap.
Right. What are these here? Are these the ones that weren't spinning a lot because they had a lower number? Oh, I see it here. So these are the ones with the higher.
Yeah. Well, so I added in the additional audiences are in there. So if you look, those are the previous ones, but they didn't have the extra audiences. They weren't as large of audiences.
Okay. Yeah, so there's really only two ways to go here. I see. It's either one, lowering your bid cap so that way you have a higher ROAS and you're going to spend less per day, but you're going to maintain a good return on ad spend. Or you're going to launch a super broad audience and have your bid caps at a lower number like this, except it's going to be such a large audience, you're just going to let the system optimize itself.
Okay.
And you're really not going to
give that a try. Yeah, my margins are a little. I can't really go a lot more than that. I don't know. I don't know if it's the adjustment in the CPM or whatnot, because my conversion rates on the site and everything else and the click through on the ad seem pretty consistent. So, and the reason those other numbers look so small, because like in July and the start of August, is the CPMs have went up. That's how it's kind of consistently went up the cost. But you will notice, like if you set that thing over on cost control at those same values, it'll pop you up that warning that says your ad may not deliver because you have it at this.
Right.
Yeah, you have it set at this. It throws you that warning.
And also with this big cap thing, I mean, have you ran both of these side by side, even though they have the exact same audience in them?
No.
Does it start to cut your costs down because of that?
No. Well, that's what when I run. That's why I added the other ones into there. The engaged and the other one, because it started, as I was running the others, it started running those bottom two ad sets. Those audiences started becoming more expensive, and I think because they were competing against each other.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, that's why you got to go super broad on these things. So you know what? Yeah, I think so. You did it this time and you went here, but since you've raised this a little bit just to spend more, like, that's your call. But I really do think that if you start to even go to more broad and just go for the entire like main portion of individuals that are buying, so like you might do like the age range in this case to narrow it just by a bit, and then like specific ages that are buying. So like you don't even have to do this like this 18 to 24 thing, because like look at these purchases. I mean, yeah, 2.54, but you have like there's not really anybody buying. And so
yeah, no one's really clicking that from our group.
25 to 34 here. Like it says 123, that's great, but like realistically, you could just hit this 35 to 65 plus range and keep it entirely open to the US and just be going after men 35 to 65 plus, and that'll narrow it from like a super sized audience of like 240 million to at least like, maybe 115 million. I don't know the exact population size for that age range, but you get the point in that sense, right? So like you're still narrowing to some degree, but you're really going broad as well to get a bigger audience size to be able to scale up more at a good ROAS.
Okay.
Because you might hit the 2+ always and be able to spend that actual full $2,500 per day.
Okay. Well, we'll give that a shot.
Yeah. Or honestly, another strategy is, if you haven't done this already, is just doing 35 to 44, 45 to 54, and there's no overlap there, and you can do all the age brackets and set the cap where you want it, and then it's spinning independently on each, and you can see which one's actually running the best and just run with that.
Okay. And so one thing I kind of noticed earlier, when you run those like just tons and tons of sets, I mean, how long do you really, because it seems like you're going to have some variance if I only, run, 30, 40, 50 bucks through there, and it only shows to like maybe 1,000 or 1,500 people. I think this, to get a really clear signal, what kind of, where do you feel comfortable? Do I need it to, show to 10,000 people to get a clear picture of that audience? I may look at it, maybe it runs to 1,000 people and it's a lucky 1,000 and it sells to, 10 out of the 1,000, and then the other one isn't as lucky, and so I go and throw everything in the one audience. Like what's your rule of thumb for the amount of impressions or the amount of data you need to kind of push forward with that, turn an audience on or turn an audience off? You know what I'm saying?
Like really it's just early on whenever you first launch it, as long as you're just past that like 30,000 impressions for an ad set and then 500 impressions for a specific ad. That's really the numbers. Anything after that, you really don't have to, there's no other number. It's really just early on. It'll just be a good indicator of where it could go. And really that's the number you use to rule something out that's not working. You don't really use that number to rule something out that is. Makes sense? That's really to find out what's not good. But to find out what is good, there's not a rule there for the impressions. We don't have one. It's really just like ruling out what's bad, and then you're left with the good in most cases. In this case, honestly, like we could keep coming up with more strategies, but the main thing is you're gonna have to go broader on your audience in order to get a higher ROAS if you want one.
Yeah, I need to do, and I also need to do volume.
Yeah. People. Yeah, volume, exactly, because that's how it becomes a little bit more lucrative.
Okay.
Yeah, I could split it out.
We'll give it a shot, and we'll talk Monday.
US ages. Yeah, just US ages.
Okay, US ages, just break them down by these demographics for the men's and the women's both, and then see where it'll spend, see what it'll do.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, yeah, you could have the big caps on all those and just let it run.
Okay. Sounds great. Well, I appreciate it. You stay safe there, bud.
Alrighty, you as well. Bye.